Right. Okay. You'll have just seen a message flash across your screens. The agenda for this meeting's on the website. It's the first article is about this meeting. If you click on that, then you can click through to the agenda. Firstly, thank you for coming. We had one of these meetings a few weeks ago. I think people took some things of value away from it. We've got a variety of subjects to discuss. I imagine now that time has progressed, more of you will have gone back to the bridge table in real life, or face to face, as we have to call it. And no doubt some of you will have had experiences at your clubs that might well inform the discussion that we have here. Oh, I see Beckenham Bridge Club is represented as well. That is where both me and the Sussex County chairman, who is also here, learnt our skills at the bridge table, negligible though they may be, a long time ago. Okay, well, I look forward to hearing what you have to say. I hope you're looking forward to what the speakers have to say. Nothing more for me to add, other than hand you over to Gordon Rainsford, the Chief Executive, who will carry through the rest of the meeting. Thank you.
Welcome everyone. Thank you, Ian. Just a few points about practical matters. You will have already had an announcement about recording going on. If you don't talk publicly, then you won't be visible. So if you're shy, that's the answer, not to talk publicly. On that subject, if you do want to raise questions, we find in these meetings with large numbers of people that the best way is for you to put the question in the text box at the right to everyone. What we will then do is either ask you to state the question or speak the question for you at the appropriate time. But very often what happens is that you get an answer from someone else in the meeting that clears it all up before we even need to do that. So that just helps keep the meeting fairly orderly. For that reason, can I also ask you, I think everyone has done, to keep muted until you actually need to speak. This is the second of these restart seminars, as Ian said. The other one was extremely large. This one slightly less so, which may well be that many people got their answers at the first one. But the fact that we've had to have two is a good indication of how important this issue is and how much people are thinking about it. One thing that's worth noting is how clubs are in different circumstances. Some clubs own their own premises, others have landlords, some have members who are particularly cautious, others are just desperate to get back to play. It is worth noting that I think from Nikki Bainbridge's latest statistics, she'll correct me if I'm wrong, that it's only a bit over 10% of our clubs that are now back to playing face-to-face, and some of those are not just playing face-to-face. So it's quite clear that it will be a slow process, and some clubs will decide to do things in different ways from others. Some will maintain more than one method of playing. They'll keep having online and also face-to-face. One important thing about this meeting is that it's aimed to share information and provoke discussion rather than to lay down one particular way of doing things. And in particular, this is nothing that anyone says should be taken as being official EBU policy. We're trying to enable here rather than trying to impose on clubs. We know from long experience that's what clubs want us to do, and that's certainly what we will be doing. I think that's probably all I need to say at this stage, and I think we've got Nikki Bainbridge talking first of all, who's been very active earlier than anyone else in trying to get her club playing face-to-face. So Nikki, are you ready to talk? Nikki, are you? If I could see you, then I would know whether you're muted.
No, I'm here. I'm
here.
not muted. But
Good.
I can't share my screen. It's not been enabled.
Right. Okay. We will give us a moment, and we will. Sam, can you enable That for Nikki?
Yeah, she has
That should be there now, Nikki.
Right. Okay. So, to give you a bit of background, although I'm sure many of you know many of this, face-to-face bridge is definitely back, and kind of in a way for the third time. Back last year, we were permitted from the beginning of July to open under a lot of regulation and guidance. And I know some people, as well as me, spent a lot of time reading the government guidance and trying to make sense of it. Big worries back then were transmission by touching infected surfaces. If you remember, charity shops were quarantining donations for 3 days. The 72-hour rule was seen as very big, and cleaning every surface in sight was seen as very big, as well as, of course, distancing. And there was the rule of 6, and there was the 2 metre or 1 metre plus mitigation guidance, which stayed in place until recently. And then there was some guidance for places like supermarkets and travelling and all the rest of it, and for community halls. And community halls, it seemed rather bafflingly at first, were permitted to have up to 30 people at an indoor event. And on getting clarification, the idea was that if, for example, you were having a quiz, you could have 4 tables 2 metres apart from any other tables, at which up to 6 members of a family unit, say, could be competing in a quiz. So the idea was that up to 30 people could be within socially distanced bubbles. And 5 clubs opened. We opened, Northampton did, Stamford did, a couple of other souls did early, and we cleaned everything in sight and kept people apart and masked and everything else. However, all that came to an end in October with the big wave then, and we reopened again in May this year on the 17th under legal obligations, and the regime was the step 3 of the government's reopening plan. And the risk of transmission concerns had very much transferred from transmission by touch to transmission by airborne droplets. We still had the social distancing. Community halls were now reduced to half their previous capacity with a maximum of 1,000. I've yet to come across the community hall with a 2,000 or more capacity, but I guess there might be one out there. And about 8 clubs opened around about the 17th of May. July the 19th, when they went to step 4, no more restrictions, some guidance, no legal obligations, caution advised, very much up to organisers what they did. In that time, since then, there's now more than 75 clubs open for face-to-face, and there is a big group planning to open in September. So it's opening slowly but surely. There's many hybrid clubs that are doing some face-to-face and some online. There are some face-to-face only, there are some online only, there are a lot that are dormant. 3 clubs, I think, have offered or are offering hybrid events, and I think Manchester Bridge Club has held one, but I'm sure people following know more than I did. But there is, there's definitely a stirring. The scene is coming back to life. So social distancing or spacing is still absolutely vital because of the droplets list. And just as an illustration, this is from our risk assessment. Our room, which previously would just about hold 10 tables, though you all needed to know each other quite well, is now was reduced to 4 during the previous phase prior to July the 19th. By doing that, we had enough space between the tables for them to be socially distanced, and we then had perspex cross screens so that we individually socially distanced the players. And when they moved, they put on masks and they stayed 1 metre apart, and we choreographed it so that only one pair was moving in the room at a time. And we did it in a kind of procession, and players got used to it pretty quickly, and they now still do it automatically. And they teach each other as new people come, which is really quite nice. But we're maintaining that. We've now increased the capacity of this room to 5. And we've hired a neighbouring room in which we can put another 5 so that we are able to have up to 10 tables. And yesterday we had a record of 7 in the new times, which we were pleased with. That's the sort of thing that the room looked like when we were still doing that. So we've got the screens, we gave each player, and we still give each player their own sanitizer. They get their bidding boxes, and when they move, they take bidding boxes with them. And while we still had smallish numbers of tables, we gave each of them an individual set of boards so that only one player touched the cards at any one time. And we were open on Mondays and Thursdays, so we had a 72-hour quarantine period for the boards and the other equipment, although in fact it was longer for most of it because we cycled more sets. Now that it's up to you how you decide to manage risk, it's better, I think, going back to first principles. So managing the risk of transmission and serious illness or worse, I think, comes down to keeping the space around people. Now, we've done away with the screens in the new time because we don't have enough sets and we weren't going to invest in any more, but we still have sanitizer for each player. You still take your bidding box and your sanitizer when you move. We encourage people to wear face coverings when they're not at the table, and about more than half of them are. But some people who really struggled with face coverings have come back and they're not, and we're still allowing that. We have a set of boards per table, up to 5 boards, but at that point my husband rebels and we start passing the boards from table to table. But we remind people to sanitize between rounds, and we reckon if you're sanitizing between every round, you're very unlikely to pick up the virus from the tables. And we try to encourage them to just have North touch the scoring cabinet, but East or West is beginning to sort of touch them again. And again, if they're sanitizing between rounds, we don't see that that's an unacceptable risk. Ventilation is more important now than it was. So our trustees, it's a private charitable trust owned our hall, they installed a fan tray in the ceiling of the room, which is an L-shaped room, and this was in the dead end of the L, as it were. So we now know we have an extraction current out through that. And we still keep doors and windows open, though we're beginning to have to moderate that as the temperature drops. And we advise people to wear an extra layer of clothing. And we've started doing beverages again, partly to keep them warm because some people were getting a bit cold, but a hot drink has helped with that. And we tell people not to come unless they're double jabbed at least 3 weeks ago. I know some clubs are actually asking to see evidence, to see the NHS letter. I decided not to do that, partly because we haven't taken on new members and I know my members and I've known them for years and I trust them. And partly because, frankly, somebody who comes who isn't double jabbed puts themselves at big risk, not so much everybody else. Because people who are double jabbed, of course, can still be carrying the virus and they can still transmit the virus. They're less likely to, but they still can, which is why you need to keep up other precautions. So decisions about opening, you need a venue, and our private charitable trust were keen to support people opening. And indeed, one of the trustees is a big bridge player, so that was a big help, I think. Obviously, your players want to come. I think we now have had probably 50 or 60 players have come to face-to-face sessions individually, and new ones are coming all the time, especially lately that's picked up. So I think we had 3 new players yesterday and we've got another 2 booked in on Thursday. And every time a new one comes, they tell their friends they came and they felt safe and they enjoyed it, and more come. But it's a slow process. And of course, August doesn't help. You need to have appropriate insurance and to check its terms, but I think we're down to showing that we're not negligent, just as we would have to with a trip hazard or food poisoning or anything else. So I think you have to treat it as those sort of things. You obviously need directors, etc. And I think that's beginning to be the inhibitor for lots of clubs. They may not have enough, people have retired, people don't want to come back. I know I've been appealed to go and do things in other clubs, which I'm doing as much as I can, but I can't do too much. And of course, you are vulnerable to people being pinged or becoming infected, because if they do that, and I've seen 2 clubs have to suspend their sessions for a week or more because of those sorts of events. So that does happen. When you think about taking care, I think there's 2 really truly important things. One is space and ventilation, and I would recommend, it's only a recommendation, that you halve total capacity from whatever your previous day was, and that you open everything you can open for ventilation and keep open as much as the players will tolerate, to keep those droplets moving. Everyone keeps a metre apart. We make them do that. We recommend face coverings when not at the table, but we don't insist. I did go and play bridge in a club that is insisting on face coverings at the table, and at the end of it, I was so glad to get out in the fresh air, I must admit. It's not something I enjoyed. And avoid touch transmission. It's quite easy to keep up the sanitizer for each player. It's quite easy to get them to take their bidding boxes and their sanitizer with them, and despite what the Prime Minister says, we don't allow hugging. You've then, as a club, got to be in a position to demonstrate the care that you are taking. So you make those decisions and you document your approach in a risk assessment. That's all a risk assessment is. It says you thought about the risks and this is what you're doing to manage them. So you can show that to someone if you're challenged. And we deliver the approach and then make records. So every time we have an event, I fill in a little form saying we managed the key risks, and I sign it and date it so that I can show somebody that on that particular day we were doing what we said we would do. And that's basically what I've learned and what I know. And I produced some model risk assessments which the EBU has on their websites, which I know some people have used and which I hope continue to be useful, and keep them up to date. And I think that's about all I have to say.
Thank you very much, Nikki. There are a couple of questions have come up while you've been talking. One which sort of was answered, I think, was about whether clubs are able to insist on people being double vaccinated rather than it just being suggested. And the answers that have been given are that we think, yes, you are allowed to. Certainly my understanding is that you're allowed to have requirements for people attending as long as they don't fall foul of anti-discrimination legislation. Different question is whether or not you want to, and that will be something for the club to do. And somebody's asked about the booking system. I'm not quite sure what was behind the question.
Okay.
Can I answer that, because
Yeah.
I asked the question? If you're restricting numbers, do people just turn up and find there are too many people and they have to go home? We're opening at the beginning of September, and having done some research, I found what I think is a very easy to use booking system where you set the number of players for any session and people book in, and once they've booked in the full number, then they'll know they can't play. We've never tried it, but it looks extremely good.
I mean, there is a booking system. Is that the one that is integral to Bridgewebs? Because Bridgewebs has a booking system.
I did look at Bridgewebs and they gave me an answer which seemed incredibly complicated, but the one that I found, and I'm happy to send information, I haven't got it at the moment, was really easy. It was easy to set up. It's free if you are a not-for-profit organization, which I think all bridge clubs are. And as I say, it was really easy to set it up.
Okay, some bridge clubs are proprietary. Not all of them are not for profit. The Bridgewebs one is it's a bit quirky, but that's certainly what we've used, and I've now got about 80%, 90% of the members will use it to book. It's fairly simple to book. It's slightly trickier to set up, but once you get used to it, it's easy. And the ones that simply can't manage that, I let them email me and I book them in myself. I think a separate booking system, I don't know, it's another complication, isn't it, to get them to use. So it's just choices, whatever.
Well, I just send out the link to everybody. They click on it and automatically goes through. And I'm trying to find what it is. When I find, oh, it's called Try Booking.
Okay.
trybooking.co.uk.
Right, that's another piece of information for people to take on if they find it works for them. That's great. You also asked Jill about serving refreshments.
Is that spelled TRI or TRY?
TRY.
Thank you.
Booking, all one word.
There we go. It's in
in
the text box. Jill, you asked about serving refreshments as well. Nikki, what do you do?
Yeah, what we've done is we used to have a break and we used to have a sort of queue to fetch a coffee and a biscuit, but because we didn't want people crowding like that, we now put it out as a serve yourself and invite people to help themselves from sort of round 2 onwards, so that there isn't a great big crowded queue and it doesn't hold up play.
Right, and there's one final question here, which is about appropriate insurance. I think any insurance from a reputable company that's aimed at a bridge club should be appropriate, but of course you have to follow the requirements of it. I'm not sure whether you're asking if you are automatically covered without the club's own insurance, and the answer would be no, clubs should have their own insurance. So I don't know if that answers the question or if there's anything more to it.
That's fine, thank you. Yeah. Sorry, it's right. Robert here, yes. Excellent. That answers my question.
One new thing to add is that the agenda has just been updated. So if you click refresh, if you're looking at the agenda, we have one fewer person and one different person talking, but it's all written up there. So hopefully it will now follow what is going to happen, which means that the next person to talk is Jonathan Lillicrop, who's going to be talking about hybrid play and explaining a bit about what it is and how to do it. So Jonathan.
Good morning, everyone. So let me just share my screen. Good morning. So my name's Jonathan Lillicrop. I'm the EBU Club Liaison Officer. I suspect many of you I've had dealings with already. So obviously lots of clubs are looking at different ways of restarting, and there's been lots of discussion of hybrid, and obviously this has a number of possible different meanings. So I'm just going to talk about some of the options that are possible. So obviously, so there's a number of options here. So one option is that you have two sections. You have an online section and a face-to-face section, and those separate sections are separate, and they play, and then the results are combined. Another option is you've got one section with all players playing online, but some players might be physically located in the club and playing on a tablet or other device. And then there's a third option, which would potentially allow you to add a small number of online tables to a face-to-face session. So I'll talk a bit more about each of those options. So firstly, if you've got online and face-to-face sections, so really for this to work, you'd need to have, well, ideally at least 5 tables in each of the sections. You could do it with small numbers of tables. You just get longer rounds. So players would play just in their own section. They wouldn't play anyone from the other section, but you would be able to combine the results at the end, and so players would be able to see how they'd done against people playing in the other section. Obviously, both sections need to play the same boards so that the result comparisons are appropriate. Sections can be of different sizes and play different movements. So the online section would use existing platforms such as BBO or RealBridge. And there's also a new system called Pianola Play, which Nigel's going to speak about later. One advantage of that system over using BBO or RealBridge is that Pianola Play allows you to see live results which include players from both sections as you're going along. So we tried that at the Eastbourne summer meeting last week, but Nigel will talk more about that later. You could also have a pair who were at the club but who brought tablets or some other devices, and then if you ended up with a half table in both sections, that pair could switch and play online, and that way you'd avoid having the half tables. Obviously, if you're doing this, then you'll end up initially with two sets of results. Results for the online and results for the face-to-face, which you'll then need to combine. The combining can be done either using EBU Score, which is the scoring program which is free to affiliated clubs, or there's also a free web utility called BBO to XML, which can also be used to do the same thing. And I have written some detailed instructions which are available, and the link to the instructions will be included in the links that Sam sends out after the meeting. So that's one option. Another option would be that that all players play online, but as I said, some players might come to the club and play on tablets. So again, you could use any existing platform, BBO, RealBridge, BCL. Any platform would be fine because you would just be running an online game in the same way that people have been doing during COVID. The advantage, obviously, of running it this way is that players, you don't have two sections now, so anyone can play against anyone else. There is a solution called LoveBridge, which is a solution designed for players playing online from the same physical location. So players would come to the club and play on tablets. It originates in Hungary and it's very popular there and in some other countries, but hasn't really caught on in England. Then we've got, then we've got a third option, which this would be applicable if you had most people wanting to come to the club, but a few people who wanted to play online. So what this would do would be allow you to add a small number of online tables to a face-to-face session. So you'd need to be playing a Mitchell movement at the club, so that you had stationary north-south, and the pairs, and the online tables would be stationary north-south tables. So the moving east-west pairs would obviously play when they're playing the people in the club. They would obviously play with real cards physically, and then when they got to the tables where the north-south were online, just for those rounds that they would play with the tablet. So this can be set up on BBO, for example. You wouldn't use a movement on BBO, you would use practice tables, and obviously you would load the appropriate boards. So that would be relevant if you've got most people playing face-to-face, but you want to accommodate 2 or 3 pairs playing online. Okay, that's for later. So I think that gives you a brief outline of those options. Thank you. If you have any questions, please do either ask now or feel free to email me later, and I'm more than happy to help. So let me just look. I think there's a couple of questions. Yes. So someone said that Scorebridge allows you to combine sessions. So I've not tried it myself with Scorebridge, but as long as you can import the XML file from the online session, then you would be able to do it in Scorebridge as well. Can you use RealBridge for option 3? Yes, you would be able to. You could set it up just using a practice table or whatever. The only site, if the north-south table that is online is starting at board 1, then obviously it's easy. If the table is starting at, say, board 5, online platforms will expect the boards to start at board 1, so you would have to skip the first 4 boards and then start from board 5, and then when you got back to board 4, you'd probably have to set up a new table. So you might have to have an extra table, but yes, you could certainly use RealBridge. Does Wi-Fi hold up in places well enough?
That's probably one for other people to answer, isn't it? How many people have experienced problems with Wi-Fi? Because my experience is that nowadays Wi-Fi in most places is pretty good, but there may well be a few clubs that are in places where the provision isn't quite so good. Didn't get very many responses when I asked about people who have problems with it. So my guess is that the majority of people have reasonable coverage. It's probably very much a local thing to be investigated to see whether anything can be done to improve it if you do have problems. Are there more questions? Jonathan, are you?
Oh, I think Jill's got her hand up. Go for it, Jill.
I did put it in the chat room, but you didn't pick it up. But okay. As from this Monday just gone, yesterday, if you get pinged and you have been double vaccinated, you do not have to isolate.
Indeed, and I can tell you that even if you were pinged before and were told to self-isolate, you can stop as from yesterday, as long as you have no symptoms, of course.
And double vaccinated.
And
get back to work.
Yes, indeed. Right, now, having told you that there was a change to the agenda, the next bit has been changed back. It's still Pianola BridgeMate solution, but we've got James Ward talking as was originally scheduled rather than Nigel Lancaster. So James, are you ready?
Yep, can you all hear me okay?
Yep.
Great, hi everybody. I'm James from Pianola, and also on this call, we've got Ron, the owner of the BridgeMate company, and Nigel, who's the UK distributor. So we've been collaborating for the past few months to develop a system for hybrid games. And whilst you can run hybrid games, as Jonathan said, by running an online section, running a face-to-face section, and then trying to combine the results afterwards, that's fine, but it's a bit cumbersome and fiddly to combine the results afterwards. And you lose the sense of this being one unified game. And what we were aiming for is that we could create a system where you can have people choose to play from wherever they prefer, whether that's face-to-face in the club or whether they'd rather continue to shield and stay at home. But the game operates in real time with the results shared in real time. And everybody, wherever they're located, can see the results updating on the BridgeMates if they're in the club, and online if they're playing online. So we developed the system. It's going to be marketed as BridgeMate Play and also as Pianola Play. It's essentially the same product. So if you have Pianola already, you'll be able to use Pianola Play. If you don't have Pianola, you will be able to use BridgeMate Play. So you're not going to have Pianola in order to use this system, but you will need to have BridgeMates because it's the BridgeMate infrastructure that is combining all of the results. And we think potentially that this has obviously a great application at the minute where clubs are trying to reopen and different people may feel differently about going back to face-to-face bridge. But we actually think, long term, the world of bridge is probably altered forever, as in, most parts of society. And so we envisage that well after COVID, if it ever is a long distant memory, long after that, you may want to maintain an element of hybrid games. You might have somebody whose mobility means they can't make it to the club anymore, or perhaps somebody is just feeling a bit unwell and they don't feel like leaving the house, or maybe they're a parent, they've got caring responsibilities and they struggle to get to the club and take that much time out of their evening. So we think in order for clubs not just to regain their table count, but to actually start to grow, we think hybrid is going to be a good offer for clubs to make to their players. So all I want to demonstrate very quickly is how you go about starting one of these hybrid games. And for anybody who is already a director or a scorer, a large part of this will be very familiar to you. So what we have on screen at the minute is our online section. This is me logged in as the director. I can see we've got 4 pairs ready to play. So I'm going to freeze the pairs so that nobody else can join. And now I'm going to go over into EBU score. So I've already created 2 sections. I've got a section A and a section B. So these hybrid games operate just like any other 2-section game. So if you've ever run a 2-section game in the club, this is exactly the same. You create one section, section A, you set how many tables, and you choose the movements. This is section B. This is going to be our online section. We've got 2 tables, and I've combined them into a combined game. So what I'm going to do, as I say, anyone who's used EBU Score will find this very familiar. I'm going to launch the BridgeMate control software. And this is just like in the club. When you start the game in the club, you set the movement and then you launch the BridgeMate software. And what's going to happen is the BridgeMate software is going to look and see if there are any online games scheduled for today. And indeed, it's found one game, which is the players who are sitting there. And all I need to do is say that the online section is section B. I'm going to set a time limit. And that's it. What's happening now is the BridgeMate software is communicating with the Pianola Play software, and it's analysing the boards. This takes a second. It's just going through working the double dummy analysis. And once that's happened, the hybrid game, if I go back over here, the hybrid game has now begun. So now we've got all of the players in the club, their BridgeMates have come alive, they've got their boards and their cards and they're starting to play. The online section, just the same. The online players are now ready to play. And I'm just going to very quickly just try and create a quick contract, just so you can see what happens. Let's see, where's the other table? I'm just going to do a 1-no trump and a pass, pass, pass. Sorry, I've got so many little, I'm logged in as 8 different players here. So I'll just, final pass. So where's the other table gone? There we go. So the online section has got 1-no trumps. I'm just going to claim just to get to the end of it. I'm going to accept that claim. And now if I go back to EBU Score and to the BridgeMate software, we'll see that that result should come through in a second. But there we go, 1-no trump. That's come in to the BridgeMate software. So the BridgeMate software is on the club's computer. So that's a result from the online section has come straight into the BridgeMate software. And if I look in EBU Score and go to the scoring page in here and look at section B, you'll see that 1-no trump has come straight into EBU Score. So the benefit of this system is that all of the scores from the online players and the face-to-face players are all coming down into EBU Score in real time. And that means all of the players, wherever they're located, can see the results from the other tables and can see the ranking and the scores updating in real time. So as I say, to begin with, this is a 2-section format, 1 section for online, 1 section face-to-face. We do have plans, although we haven't really done any design work yet, but we do have plans to allow this to be a 1-section game. So as the world gets back to normal and the majority of your players perhaps return to the club, but you just have 1 or 2 pairs want to play from home, we hope to be able to support that as well. But that's what we've got so far. So I don't know, Ron, Nigel, if you've got anything that you wanted to add.
Hello, James. Thanks for that. I think that was a good demonstration of functionality of Bridgemate Play. No, actually, I have nothing to add. I think you demonstrated it very well. The key takeaway is that the online section and the offline section are merged real time, and offline players do see on the Bridgemates the results of the online game, and the online players, they see at the same time also what happens at the offline game. So it's a true game where everybody is playing all together the same boards and playing for in the same final rankings. Nothing more to add.
And also for the director, it makes the job much easier, because for the director, fundamentally, all they're really doing is starting a 2-section game. At the end of the game, when they produce the P2P file or the UMS file, it's already done. There's no extra work. There's no merging required. So there's a couple of questions. Somebody's asked, does Pianola/Bridgemate Play have robots? Not at the moment, but we're investigating that. So that's what we've been focusing on for the past few months, was getting the hybrid part working. Extra features such as robots and all different types of supporting all different games, Swiss games and team games, etc. They're all features that are on our to-do list. We were focusing on the hybridness. David from Whitley Bay has asked, can online and offline sections be over a different number of boards? Now, this did come up in Eastbourne because the online section played 25 boards and the face-to-face section played 24 in one of the games, and a few people queried whether that was fair. So it's just like any other 2-section game. The sections don't have to be the same size, but if they're not the same size and you're choosing different movements, you may end up with a different number of boards, but you may choose to counter that. So at Eastbourne, the next time we had a game where it was a different number of boards, the face-to-face section played an extra board so that both sections had played the same.
It might be worth just mentioning something about Eastbourne here, because people may or may not know that we ran a sort of early test of it as part of the GCH Fox Championship pairs on the Monday and Tuesday at Eastbourne. And although there were some issues on the first day, they were all due to our user error, and by the time the second day came along, it went very well. So if anyone is interested in running it for clubs, I would certainly recommend that it will be a very good method for doing this.
Sue from Bristol has asked, can you score bridge with Pianola Play? Yes, you can. So this system will work with any scoring program. If your scoring program works with Bridgemate, which it will do, then you can use Bridgemate Play / Pianola Play. So the key thing is you need to be using Bridgemate. So it's not going to work with bridge tabs or other scoring devices. But if your scoring program works with Bridgemate, which it will, then you're going to be able to run a hybrid game using this system. And Ron, can I pass there's a question about the costs from Peter in Sussex. Could I pass that one over to you?
Yes. So we're planning to work with a credit-based system where clubs purchase upfront an X amount of credits. These credits allow the club to process the scores coming from the online game into the Bridgemate software, and then from there it's processed into the scoring program. Exact pricing is not yet fully determined, but I think we will end up with about, for a say 24 board table, that would be about €2.50 per table for the club, which is about £2, I guess. So that's the cost for one table to run it fully online. That's the cost from the club to Bridgemate Play, Pianola Play. And of course, the club is free to charge the players any table fee, whatever they like to charge for the online game. As I said, this is a credit-based system. And as it usually goes with credits, the more credits you buy at once, the cheaper they get. So we'll probably end up with something between €2 to €2.50 per table, which is £1.5 to £2 per table.
Thanks, Ron. Keith from Bromsgrove asked, said, online bridge is much quicker. Do we have any problems with the timings? Well, no, because they can move at different paces, just like in the real world. A two-section game can run at different speeds in the real world. What's nice is the fact that as the scores come in, if the online section does finish first, which is often the case, the ranking screen has very nice animation we've built in, so you can actually watch people moving positions. I took my inspiration from the Eurovision results coming in. I love the way that their scores move around. So so the online players, if they have finished first, they can sit and watch as the scores are still coming in from the club environment, and then it tells them when all the scores are complete and the game's ended.
Right. It looks as though we've had all the questions answered that were to do with Bridgemate Play, Pianola Play. So ready to move on to the next bit, which is about TD refresher courses. Jax, are you ready to talk?
I am, and hopefully you'll all tell me if you can't hear me and you can't see my, hopefully you're now seeing my
We can hear you
PowerPoint
and we can see your screen.
Marvellous. So good morning, everybody. My name is Jack Smallcomb and I am eBed's Education and Development Officer. And I'm responsible for organising the director and teacher training courses for eBed. So how do we ensure that we have resilience within our directing teams when we restart? So let's take a look at some of the options available to us. So first of all, I'm going to start with existing TDs and refresher training. What you can do for yourselves to start with, the non-interactive training that's available for you. The first place to go to are the video series that have been developed by the EBU, EBL and World Bridge Federation. You can see a picture on the left. More help with TD rulings. There are a set of 6 topics and an introduction, and also some previous videos, all available at the bottom of my screen. I've put the web page where you can find those. So that really is the first place to start and something that you can do for yourselves. On the same web page, you can also access some online refresher quiz training. There are 40 questions, you can download them, and that will help you to find your way once again around the rule book that none of us have picked up for some time. On the same page, it's a very helpful page, there are flowcharts of commonly infringed laws. It's a little picture on the left of those. So these are really useful, even if you haven't used them previously. You can downsize them or just fold them up and put them in the back of your law book as an aid memoir when you go to the table. Even if you haven't felt the need to use them before, they can be a really useful reminder for us. So those are all things that we can do now for ourselves to refresh our memories. So there are some counties that have undertaken some refresher training for their clubs. I just know of one in particular. Phil Godfrey has delivered some online training for his club TDs. So Yorkshire County Bridge Association, on its website, you'll see the link here, has that seminar. It's available until the end of August. So if you would like to view that, in addition to the other non-interactive training we've just talked about, that will be available for you. So what can eBed offer you in addition to that? Well, if you would like more structured interactive training and you feel that you very much need table simulations and a real life simulation to test you and to remind you of the laws, then this is what we can offer you. We have some existing courses, refresher courses that are on our website. There's the link to the website. And you can book those through My EBU, through Utilities Book Courses. You're welcome to join anything that's already listed in our calendar. If you really want to have refresher training and there's nothing available near you, then I can offer you a course on demand. Those courses can be either half day or full day. They can be entirely flexible content to suit you. You might want to have part of it with scoring, some of EBU score. You might want to have some of it for particular book rulings. You may want to cover judgment rulings. Whatever suits you, I can actually have flexible content and deliver your requirements. What we need to offer this is about 8 delegates to make it viable. So if you feel you have the demand and you would like us to come and deliver a course for you, just let me know and we will facilitate all of it. We'll do the booking, we'll deal with all the materials, everything. I will organize it for you and I can put that on for you. So they're the existing directors, but what about new directors? We all want to increase our pool of directors within clubs, and we also have just restarted our face-to-face club director training. That can all be found on the same TD course calendar. And we've tried to put venues around the country that make it slightly more accessible to people to begin with. I'm adding courses all the time. I'm about to add a course in Stretford. So if you see any of these courses and you would like to book them, it's the same way you can book through My EBU, Utilities Book Courses. It's worth saying that these courses are reasonably heavily subsidised. And if you book through My EBU, EBU members get a subsidised rate, and the rate that you pay through My EBU is already that subsidised rate. If again, you're a club and you really want to train a pool of directors and you have around about 8 directors, you think within your area you can get 8 directors and there's no course near you, please let me know again. And I'm now looking to book courses from next year. So I can help you out. So please, I'll give you my contact details at the end and just let me know and I'll arrange a course near you. So we have some other courses that are really demand led. So if you look on the calendar, they don't appear there, but we can actually organize them for you. And so we really want to know if they are your requirements. We have started an online judgment ruling day. If you are looking to run online, carry on with your online club as well as your face-to-face directing, and you need to train some more online directors for your virtual club, then we have a 1-day course that at the end of it will deal with all the commonly occurring calls for online TDs. This is a 1-day standalone course and it's delivered by web conferencing. We deliver it via Zoom. I'm planning one for December that's about to go on the website. But if I have demand prior to that, I can put it on at really short notice. So again, even if you have 1 or 2 TDs within your club that are really interested in that online judgment ruling, just let me know, because when I get a critical mass, I'll put the course on. So just drop me an email. It's the same with EBU school training. There's nothing in our calendar at the moment for an EBU school training course, but we do offer them. And again, it's on a demand-led basis. I'm planning that it can be delivered by online, via web conferencing again. At the moment, I've got about 5 people, so I don't need that many more to put on an EBU school course. If it's something you're interested in, please just drop me an email and I will let you know when we have enough people and organise that course for you. It's worth mentioning, even though we're talking about directing, we also for eBed run club teacher training courses, and I know a lot of clubs not only are getting back to play, they also want to get back to their teaching programme. In addition to the face-to-face club teacher training courses that are restarting in September and are on our website, we also offer an online option of club teacher training courses. Once again, these are demand-led, and again, at the moment, I have about 6 people that are waiting, so I don't need many more to put on an online teacher training course. This is over 2 days. And this is particularly suitable for those clubs whose teachers feel they are going to continue to teach online. So if that is you, and if that's something you're interested in, please drop me an email or give me a call. My email address is below, jacqueline@ebedcio.org.uk, and my phone number is there. It's fair to say that if you go on our website and you see any of these courses and you feel that you want something different or you want something near you, then I'm really open to what your requirements are, and I'd really like to know. So you know, please just drop me an email and we'll do our best to facilitate whatever your requirements are. And I think that's it from me, Gordon. Deathly silence.
I'm here. Thank you very much. I was just having a quick look at the list to see if there were any specific questions for you, but I can't see any. So thank you, and we'll leave people to get in touch with you directly if they do have questions or want to take part in that. This means that we're now a little bit ahead of schedule, so can I just confirm that Douglas is ready to start talking about recruitment? Douglas, are you there? If not, then
yes, I am.
Yep, you are. Sorry, I hope I haven't caught you unawares by
not at all
being ahead of time. So
you may
go ahead.
Good morning, everybody. I was the Lone Ranger, but I'm now Douglas Wright. I would like to talk about recruitment. And in essence, all the clubs have been really focusing, quite rightly so, on satisfying their existing members in this very complex market of transitioning from online to face-to-face. I would like to talk about, if you like, our new members and recruitment. I'd like to share with you initially a couple of screens. And the first one I'm going to share with you is, I make no qualms about it. It is the Three Counties Bridge website. It will move into your main picture now. And in terms of recruitment, what we've essentially done is we have to reach out to our existing members and tell them that there are many opportunities for their friends, their neighbours and their relatives to take up this wonderful game of bridge.
Douglas, I'm seeing the Surrey one rather than the Three Counties one. Is that
sorry?
Correct?
It is the Surrey one that I wanted to show you.
It is the Surrey
first.
one. Thank you.
It is. Yep.
And
in essence, the Surrey one has information on, do you want to learn to play bridge? Do you want to improve your game? Specific information for learners to go to. And also we reached out to all our members that probably the best way of actually encouraging people to take up this wonderful game is to give them a taster session. And it is very simple. We are able to provide them with beginner taster sessions or indeed improver taster sessions. And this is our latest newsletter in Surrey, where we've encouraged all the clubs in Surrey to put up into their news box, a news item, the ability to, you know, please give your friends, relatives, neighbours a present of a bridge taster session. And all people have to do is to actually click on the beginner taster session. And if I do click on that, I'm not sure what's going to happen. Oh my goodness me. It actually goes to a beginner taster session where people can actually register. What I'd like to do is just go back a second to the home page of the Three Counties Bridge website. All your club websites can include, and I'm very happy for you to copy any of this information if you wish, can include, you know, why play bridge? What makes bridge brilliant? Put in a little video about the pros and cons of playing bridge, and then to actually click on a taster session. And lo and behold, at the forefront of your website, there is information that you can put for encouraging new people, new members to come along. The one thing that we've learned during this pandemic is that it has been great for teaching. It has been great for teaching lessons, for supervised playing, for friendly fours versus other fours. And if I can just give you an indication, you know, there are lots of lessons, beginner lessons, improver lessons, supervised play sessions that they can all attend. This is because we are now operating online. And one of the main things that we try and ensure is that we guarantee that if any person wishes to come and learn and play online, that when they wish to return to the face-to-face environment, that we will facilitate their transition to face-to-face with their local club, with their local bridge community. And there are numerous activities. Now, this whole session is on transition from online to face-to-face. Not only do we have our online duplicate pairs, improver pairs, and snakes and ladders teams, we have also our face-to-face pairs as well. So we are facilitating the recruitment of new members and enabling other clubs to get these new members so that they can actually return to their face-to-face. There are other teachers on this. I'm just going to stop the share for a second, if I may. There are other teachers on this forum, and they've been exceptionally active in the recruitment of new members. There's Nikki, there's Christine McFarlane, there's Jack Smallcomb. And all I can say is that I will invite comments from them, but my experience is that if we can offer people taster sessions for our wonderful game of bridge, people enjoy the interactivity of it, and they then wish to actually take up the game. It is probably the best way of converting a new person to the game. So if you want to know anything more about taster sessions, you're all welcome to attend one, see what they're like, and then encourage your club to run taster sessions as well. Any comments from any of the other teachers who are on this forum? Yes, Jax.
Only just to really back up what you were saying, Douglas, it's absolutely true. Within Suffolk, which is where I teach, we have been doing the same thing and offering taster sessions at clubs, and privately I have too. And it's just been a tremendously successful way to bring new people into the game. And it also is, I don't know what your success rate is for taster sessions, but ours, I think, is certainly, it's almost 100%. I think certainly at clubs it's 100%. The people that come, the sign-up rate is phenomenal.
That's incredible, Jax. That is a very good percentage. Any other questions from anybody else? Yes, Sue. Please unmute yourself, Sue.
I just want to know how you do the recruitment, because that's been our big problem. I mean, you said do you just rely on club members recruiting other people, or how else do you do the recruitment?
There's a very good question, Sue. Word of mouth is obviously the best. Word of mouth from existing players and from existing students who can personally recommend a teaching environment is certainly good. However, how do you get brand new people? I can only tell you what we're doing in Surrey and what we're doing within the 3 counties environment. This month, we are advertising in what's called the Round and About magazine. There are 8 local editions, and there's advert in there, and also invite to come to specific taster sessions. So local magazines, Round and About. Another example is parish magazines. They're brilliant. The local parish magazine, which costs next to nothing, £50 for a year or £70 for a year, to have a little standing, you know, come and try out bridge, come to a taster session, and works a treat. And then there's the local newspapers. In our particular area, we have what's called the Herald. And there's the Herald, which is Farnham, Hazelmere, Petersfield. I see Mike Kinsey's here from Hampshire. The adverts go into those local papers, and we get people phoning up and, you know, making inquiries. So does that help?
Well, yeah, we do advertise like that. I think maybe we've got a lot of competition in our area, so that's why we're not getting too many new people. But anyway.
Which area is that, Sue?
We're in Bristol.
Bristol.
Yeah.
Well, if you've got competition, that's good. Encourage cooperation.
Yeah.
Encourage cooperation.
Yeah, your taster sessions sound like a good idea. Yeah.
Good, excellent. Any other questions from anybody else?
One of the other people who spoke last time and who is unable to be here today and who was also talking about membership development and recruitment was Tim Anderson, our membership development officer. So I've put a link in the text box to something he wrote for the membership development website, which you may wish to have a look at afterwards, so that we don't miss out entirely by him not being able to be here. If there are no further questions on this, we'll move on to the next topic, which is online payments, and we have Jonathan talking about that again. Jonathan.
Excellent, thank you. One sec, let me just share my screen again. Right, so so obviously with the return to, well, even before that, with clubs playing online, there was some clubs needed ways to collect money from members. If they weren't using payment methods such as BB dollars, then they needed ways to collect money offline. And it's also something that clubs are thinking about with the return of face-to-face play and not wanting to use cash. Then clubs are looking at different cashless payment options. So there's really two parts to this. As it says here, tracking how many games each player has played, and then and working out how much they owe, and then collecting that payment. So the simplest way of collecting one way of collecting the payment is by bank transfer, which usually avoids any card processing fees. So as you can see, there's a number of systems listed below, which are systems that we're aware that different clubs are using, and I've provided some details about what each one does. I can't really demonstrate any of these because obviously I don't have access to club records, and we obviously couldn't share the screen anyway because it would contain member data. But just to talk a little bit about them. So Brian Mass is a system created by Victor Lesk, which can track how many times players have played and how much they owe, including membership payments. It recommends payment by bank transfer, although it can be expanded to use card payment. The pricing model probably means that it's more appropriate to larger clubs, although I'm sure Victor is happy to talk to anyone and explain more about the product. This web page is on the EBU website, and it will be in the links that Sam sends out, so you can all have a look at this if you're interested and see the various links. Bridgewebs, obviously the vast majority of clubs use Bridgewebs, and Bridgewebs has now got a system for tracking player payments. So the way it works, that players can load some credit onto an account. Bridgewebs will then track how many times they've paid and how much needs to be deducted, and will then adjust their balance accordingly. So and the player would then just need, when the balance is getting low, the player would just need to make a bank transfer, and the club treasurer can use a CSV file to load those payments from members into Bridgewebs. So I've not used it myself, but I think it's fairly straightforward, and it has the advantage that that most people are used to interacting with Bridgewebs. There's then some other systems here. We've got Spade Tickets and Bookwhen, which aren't, these are sort of event booking services. They're not specific to Bridge, but they can be adapted to sort of to sell a ticket for a Bridge event and collect the payment. So, for example, with Spade Tickets, Basingstoke Bridge Club are using that, and they've written a really useful article about their experience. So, again, that's there for you to look at. You've also mentioning here Zettel, which is the probably you've seen it, the sort of handheld card reader thing. So that's more appropriate for a sort of face-to-face club environment. And Cheltenham were using that prior to COVID, and again wrote about their experience. So there's a link there. So there's some. Hopefully this information is useful. As I said, the link will be included in what Sam sends out after this meeting. And if people do have any questions, then again, please just come back to me. I can see a few people have posted in the chat while I've been talking. So so James Ward has said. Said Brian Mass integrates with Pianola to automatically reconcile payments with players and automatically deduct from players' balances after they've played a game. Richard Last from Harpenden, Duplicate Bridge Club, has said, we use Bridgewebs and charge in arrears. It is excellent, enables people to pay for others, allows CSV uploads, which works smoothly, fully recommended. Thank you, Richard. That's really useful to have that endorsement. Mike Kinsey from Hanson Petersfield has said, we're considering a golf club model, i.e. quarterly payment, play as often as you like. He was asking if anyone had any experience of this. I know Coventry and North Warwickshire Bridge Club were doing it that way when they first went back to face-to-face. Oh, well, no, I think, sorry, when they were playing online rather, but have now switched to a more sort of pay as you play kind of model. I know there are clubs that do have that kind of model where you pay, you play and then you pay and then you can play as much as you like.
Question about contactless.
Yeah. David Morrison from Whitley Bay and Tynemouth has said, are any clubs collecting payments using contactless? Which system are they using? I don't know. I mean, obviously for obviously during online, contactless wasn't really an option. So I guess it and so it would only be clubs who are setting something up now as opposed to having already set something up online. So I'm not sure. I'm not aware of any at this point, David.
Right. Are there any broader questions from anyone other than just about Jonathan's bit about payment methods? We've had a lot of interesting people talking, and there may be things that weren't covered at the time. So if there are, do raise them now. Otherwise, I've put a link in the chat just now to the information that arose from the last one, some of which will be the same, but there will be some slight variations. And those of you who are interested in looking at something immediately will find there are things to pursue there. Barbara Regan's got a bit about
Okay, so
Maggie's asked something about insurance, and I'm not sure if in what way that's a different question from the one that I answered earlier.
I think the reason may be that the only insurance that clubs get for free is the officers' insurance, but many clubs do take out the insurance which the EBU organises, although it's a paid insurance, but it's organised by the EBU. So I think that may be where that.
Yeah, and I think all clubs are recommended to have their own insurance. The cover that comes under the EBU is for one very limited and rare situation, but clubs will all have they'll have their own different requirements, and they should get out their own insurance, whether they use the one that we have organised or they go through insurers themselves. Comment about card reader, but I think that's really a statement more than a question. Well, if there are no further questions, I realise that we've gone a fair bit ahead of schedule, in part by having one fewer speaker than last time, perhaps because everyone has had those extra few weeks to consider things and therefore have reached answers themselves. But unless there are any final questions, I would just like to thank everyone who has spoken here today. That's been really great of them, but also all of you who've come along, and I hope you have found it interesting. And if something occurs to you afterwards that you didn't ask at the time, you will probably now know who best to ask so that you can get the answer.